I was about 7 or 8 when my mum and dad bought me my Amiga 600. I played that thing a lot over the next 5 years, and the games I played back then still have a prominent place in my memory. I recently visited 5 games from my childhood that evoke the most nostalgia. This is not a top 5 Amiga games list, but it's very personal to me and my memories. I still think these games hold up really well today, and are worth a revisit if you're into retro gaming and emulation. Before I get on with the video, I'd just like to give a huge shout out to Mikey G Retro. It turns out that getting Amiga emulation up and running is a lot more complicated than for other systems, and his guide made it nice and easy for me to get this all working. I'll give you a link to the video guide in the description. That'll get you set up with an emulator and a game launcher if you want to try these games yourself. The Settlers. The Settlers series has gone on to have numerous sequels, not all of which have been great, but I've loved playing the first 3 games in the series, and it all started here. At its heart, this is a game about building a working production line, pushing the boundaries of your territory, and using your soldiers to defeat your enemies. Despite the cartoony style, there's a lot of complexity here, and a lot of the basic building types and strategies became a mainstay of the series. This was the first game like this that I played, and I have to admit I preferred the base building elements to any of the military strategy. And seeing your little characters move about doing their jobs, trying to optimise their paths and supply chains is really satisfying. A unique feature of the game is you produce every single item in there from raw materials. Every single plank of wood in the buildings, all of the iron in the swords, all of this has to be harvested and put through a multiple stage process before it can be used. I think this is why the game often feels more like an economy sim than a game that's focused on combat. A lot of people will say that The Settlers 2 is the best in the series, but I think this first one is not far behind. Theme park. Unfortunately, I had a bit of a letdown with this game initially. All of the magazines showed how you build these amazing theme parks with loads of rides, shops that look like giant ice creams, boxes of fries. As a young kid, that stuff's exciting. But unfortunately, there are actually 2 versions of this game. The press coverage showed the AGA version, reserved for those lucky few with an Amiga 1200. But when I put the disc in my Amiga 600, I realised I'd have to live with a lesser set of rides, a smaller variety of guests, and boring brown boxes for shops. Now, I was lucky enough to eventually play the DOS version of the game on the family PC and get the full experience, but that's not to say I didn't enjoy my time playing on the Amiga. I think if you're younger than me, you probably remember playing Roller Coaster Tycoon very fondly, but this game actually came out 5 years earlier and had a surprising number of the same features, and even some extras such as stock management and staff wage negotiations. Now, the coaster builder is nothing special, so the game mostly draws its visual appeal from the flat rides, and while a lot of the substance has to come from the business sim, which is something that gets a little bit neglected in games today. As with later games, every guest has their own individual sets of needs, opinions, and those are based on how hungry and thirsty they are, how dirty your park is, how exciting your rides are, and so on. You also have fine-grained control of your research budget, pricing of your shop items, and even when you order extra burgers and fries. If the business simulation element is too much though, and you just want to build a cool looking park, then the sandbox mode removes a lot of the complexity, meaning there's something here for everybody. Sensible World of Soccer. I'm not a big football fan these days, but if you grew up as a boy in the UK in the 90s, then you probably played football, and I played it a lot. Not to say I was any good, but I was obsessed. And before FIFA and Pro Evolution Soccer, there was Sensible World of Soccer. Just like today though, there's a new version every year, and I'm showing the 96-97 version in the video. Matches are quick and fast-paced, there's a huge number of teams to choose from, in the thousands, and loads of customization options, custom kits, team and player names. As well as using the defaults, you can have your own custom teams, If you want a game that's Jedis versus Stormtroopers, you can set that up. There were also weather effects. The state of the pitch affected how the ball rolled and played. And other features ahead of its time included club transfers, club finances, player injuries, the ability to act as a team manager and player manager. But even with all of that, I think the main thing that makes this game fun is it doesn't take itself too seriously. When you look at football games today, and the ones I see my nephew play, I can see there's an ever-increasing trend towards realism and a focus on those celebrity players. Not so in sensible world of soccer. It captures the feeling of kicking a ball around with your mates and having a good time. And on top of all of that, it fits on less than 2 floppy disks. That's 2 megabytes of storage space. Pinball Dreams. I never actually had a copy of this game, but I played it at my friend's house constantly. We were competing to get the high score on one of the 4 built-in pinball tables. There's an extra motivation for me. There's something about having your name etched on your friend's Amiga that kind of appeals. I have a particular fondness for the steel wheels table, but all of the tables are fantastically designed and the graphics are brilliant. I've not really seen a pinball game since that's managed to nail the feel so well. There is the sister game, Pinball Fantasies, that's very similar. But after this, the team went on to become DICE and worked on the Battlefield series instead. The strength of the game really does come from that ball feel and the physics, and as a result, this is something you can pick up for 10 minutes or become obsessed with for hours at a time. Definitely worth a try if you've not played already. The Secret of Monkey Island. The Secret of Monkey Island and its follow-up are probably my favourite 2 games of all time. I also have a fondness for the 3rd game, but these first 2 are really the peak. I didn't actually get off to a great start playing the first game. It took me an embarrassingly long time to realise you can go back up the cliff at the beginning to get to the rest of the island. This meant I was stuck really early on. But getting stuck is a bit of a theme for these sort of games. This was a time before I could just Google how to solve the puzzles. There's a lot of experimentation, a lot of randomly clicking items, and asking friends on the playground. These games took weeks, if not longer, to complete. Some of the puzzles were hard. Lots of people online mention the infamous monkey wrench puzzle. This is an example of moon logic, but it was actually some of the timed elements, like the final boss battle with LeChuck, that I found the hardest. Having said that, this was one of the first puzzle games where you couldn't get yourself into an unfixable dead end or kill your character off, setting you back hours and forcing you to replay parts of the game again and again. And the difficulty was also offset by the humour and charm. There's some iconic sequences, such as the insult sword fighting and spitting competition. I imagine if you're watching this video, you've played these games already. They top the Amiga charts wherever I look, but why not give it another play? As a bonus, I'm going to include XCOPY Professional. It's not only the games that make me nostalgic for my childhood, but some of the tools as well. If you had an Amiga in the 90s, you're probably familiar with XCOPY. It allowed you to take an exact copy of one disk and put it onto a blank, even bypassing a lot of the copy protection in place at the time. This was where a lot of games were handed around between friends. It was definitely more of a Wild West, or perhaps a high seas back then. I was only young, so I didn't have much involvement outside of my friend group, but I understand this is an iconic piece of software in the Amiga piracy and disk swapping culture. And so I hope you enjoyed reminiscing with me today. Now that I've got my virtual Amiga up and running, I'd love to hear about any games you'd recommend or that you particularly enjoyed growing up. Leave me a comment and I'll check them out. Thanks everyone. I'll see you in the next video.